All right.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sam Brandauer, one of the co-directors of the Collaborative. We're really excited to have you here today. For us, anyway, this is the beginning of our beginning of a new year. I know depending on where you are in the world, you may be in the middle of an academic cycle, at the end of one. But we are kicking off a new year for the Collaborative, and we have lots of exciting things that we want to share today. Mike, Sarah, and Caro, maybe if you all could just do brief introductions before we get started as well.
Hey, y'all. My name is Mike. I'm Managing Director. Good to see y'all.
Sarah?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Stanlick. I'm one of the co-directors and a faculty member and associate dean at Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Hi, everybody. Carolina Bolaños with CFHI and one of the co-directors.
Mike, if you want to go ahead and take us to the next slide. So this is what we're going to focus on now for about the next 55 minutes. Kind of a current state of affairs, appreciation for what is. We're going to talk a little bit about what's new and exciting. And we're going to spend some time together thinking about what comes next, how we advance our shared mission and nurture our community. So we're actually going to pop into, since there is a nice big group of us, we're going to pop into breakout rooms to do some introductions. So Mike's going to put those prompts into the chat so everybody can see them as you go into breakout rooms. But we're going to share who we are, what we do, what organization we're representing, and then hopefully maybe start to answer the prompt questions. Mike, how much time will we have in breakout rooms? You are muted.
Had to happen once on this call. So,
there we go.
Carolina or Sarah, if you wouldn't mind dropping those in those prompts as I'm looking at the breakouts, but we'll do 4 minutes, so a minute each for folks to introduce themselves.
Right, so go ahead and get cozy for a few minutes and chat and get to know the people in your breakout room. And then we'll be back soon to keep going.
Oh, I was brought back to the main one.
You were. Let me see here. Oh, here you are. Oh.
Hi, I was in a room and I think I don't know what I did to come back to the main room.
That's okay. I
was in
will
room 7 if you.
I will move you to another room.
Mike, are you bringing me back to the main one on purpose,
I'm
or
not, no, but I'm going to move you to another one right now.
like? I'm not allowed to stay in the breakout room. I join in and immediately get pulled back.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, well, you're pinned, but
But Sarah and Sam are also.
yeah.
And why this community is so important. And this is just one little snapshot of some of our wonderful organizational partners and sponsors. There are folks who have been part of the Collaborative since day one. All People Be Happy, formerly Amazaje. It grew out of work about 20 years ago. Quinnipiac has been at the table for a long time. WPI is a newer member since I've moved to WPI and been able to do some work welcoming in people at my own institution. And that's really where this work starts. It's so relational and so connected. So as we're talking today, as you're hearing from our community, one, it's a great community to be able to learn from and to get inspiration from. Two, think about the folks who aren't here that you work with that might benefit. And we're always happy to have a conversation about membership, individual or institutional, just welcoming folks in to keep nurturing that community, because it really is the people that make it so strong and wonderful. So next slide, please, Mike. We also are a very democratic organization. We try to make sure that each piece of our decision making is collaborative. It is moved by community voice. We've got a number of different ways to choose your own adventure of how you also connect in with the collaborative. So we've got the leadership is the co-directors, Caro, Sam, and myself in a tri model. We have worked over years to try and get a bit more of a governance structure to welcome people in and to change over membership too, because we know that folks rise into these opportunities, get passionate about the work that we're doing and want to do more in different ways. And we've had ebbs and flows over time. So it's also a very flexible and fluid organization, but both structured and responsive, which I think is unique and really, really quite lovely. A big part of that is having Mike, our managing director, who keeps us both administratively organized, but also is always seeing the opportunities and possibilities and nurturing a lot of these hard conversations, interesting conversations about where we are as, I don't know if we think about ourselves as a field, as a community, but in that space of global learning and ethics, it's a challenging time. So having this network of folks is incredibly important. So we have an advocacy council that's made up of critical friends. They're global learning leaders, some folks who have positional leadership in places like AAC&U. Others are long-term community organizers or folks that are looked through as civic leaders in their fields. They're advocating for ethical community-based global learning. They serve on the advocacy council to help kind of externally connect with opportunities and also advocate for us in important conversations that they're in. Our steering committee is member representatives, so folks who are official members of the collaborative, who are our governing body in many ways, right? They're subject matter experts, community organizers. They're folks who are doing the work day to day in their institution of providing the space for high quality, ethical global learning. And they're also helping to make this organization run by decision making, by governance, financial oversight, sustainability discussions, membership discussions. I mentioned at the very beginning, looking out and saying, who's not here? Who are we missing? Who can we welcome in? And the steering committee has been doing a really great job of that over the years. And then we've got action teams and working groups. So sometimes this is, I mentioned governance. We wanted to get a little bit more professionalized with governance. So we have a group that is specifically working that with a charge to, move some bylaws, adopt more policies, structure, things of that nature. Then we've got some teams who just want to nerd out about global engagement survey, assessing this work. How do we, create new artifacts or new pieces of scholarship that advance the work forward? How do we do more in terms of fair trade learning? How do we advocate for that on our campuses? So the action teams and working groups tend to be very more charge specific. They sometimes are short term, sometimes long term ongoing. I know I head up the knowledge mobilization group. We've had conversations about everything from relational engagement to what is the role of us in liminal spaces, to creating things like podcasts and blogs to help find new spaces to mobilize the work that each of us are doing in this community. So that's a bit about our leadership. And then next slide, Mike. So, and again, we work together in a lot of different ways. We've got the Global Engagement Survey, which has been mentioned a few times around assessing the work. It's a service that we provide, but then also a learning tool that you can deploy and helps advance the work in your space. We work around this framework of fair trade learning. There is scholarship around fair trade learning. So reciprocity, where do you invest your dollars? How do you make sure community voice is at the center of the work that you're doing? That has spun off questions about assessment, about community tools, about just how do we advance that practice, both in learning and designing of experiences. We have a global interdependence toolkit, is an open educational resource that anybody can take the modules from and use in your classroom, use in your experiences. But more importantly, you also can contribute to that OER. So if you have subject matter expertise, something that you're passionate about, take a look at the Global Interdependence Toolkit and say, is it there? It's not there. I could author something, or I could partner with someone to create a module that could be, again, open access, easily adaptable, and usable by everyone in the community. So I think this all kind of speaks to knowledge mobilization and co-creation. I won't belabor that point. But the other piece just to mention is that we gather. So we gather in virtual spaces like this. We gather in person at summits, at larger gatherings. We gather this past November, we had a wonderful institute in Savannah, Georgia. We partnered with the Novus Project. So it was this deep experiential possibility for us to learn about the history of a specific place, but also to evaluate and have critical discussions about the work that we all do, the things that we're facing, both in terms of federal and international challenges, but then also places of hope and pedagogies that we're seeing give us, again, a little bit of glimmer about what could be. So next slide, Mike. And there, people gathering, enjoying meals at the wonderful Savannah Institute that we had. And so some key initiatives that we are working on. We want to have more research and scholarship on ethical global engagement. We've got a team that's working on assessment of participant learning. They're thinking about community voice, which oftentimes people want to do good assessment of, and that's the last thing that ends up getting to, deployed because it's challenging or it's unclear. So how do we regularize that, or at least make some more tools or flexible modules to help get that authentic community voice at the center of our evaluation? We do a lot of work around curriculum, a lot of community of practice support, connecting university educators, community-based educators, third-party providers. As folks are coming to the first time and asking who are the members of the collaborative, it really runs the gamut. We've got individuals, we've got leaders in informal and formal ways. We have university affiliated, non-university affiliated folks who are, sometimes doing the insurance around some of these study abroad and engagement opportunities, but they care about the work being done well, and they care about the work being done in an ethical and high quality way. So the community of practice is really interesting and really wonderful to connect with. And then faculty development and professional learning. We have institutions that come to us and say, I've got faculty who are trying to do this work for the first time. They're well-intentioned, but maybe a little bit underdeveloped, underinformed, and they want more. So how can we help partner with you all to advance that practice? And you see all the faces around the call today. We've got a good community of folks. Okay. All right, next up, some of our good community of folks, the snapshot from back in June when we gathered and had the opportunity to talk to one another. Again, lots of gathering. And so another wonderful thing that Mike helps us to understand a little bit more is what is the impetus? Why do people care about coming to the collaborative and engaging with us? Yeah, and I see the note, Philadelphia, very well represented. We've got some good Pennsylvania representation. There's been connection over time. So top 3 reasons for joining. A lot of it is because people see and buy into the mission. They want to focus on ethical community-based global learning. They want to focus on decolonization, on ways of disrupting power imbalances in the institution and community partnerships. They're bought into the vision, 100%. Same thing about participating in a community of practice. They enjoy it. They respect the folks that they're alongside, and it draws them to have this community of support. And then we've got, some folks who are really drawn by the Global Engagement Survey. I think that, just to be frank with folks, there's more opportunity to do more with the Global Engagement Survey. We've had folks who have done their own scholarship connecting to that data over time. Highly recommend thinking about how it might advance some of your work in that way. Same thing with consultations on implementing fair trade learning. I mentioned we work with campuses. And then relationships to create projects together. This is a fertile ground for people to say, I've been thinking about this or working on this. Is there somebody else out there in our network who wants to be either an accountability buddy, a co-thinker, a co-designer? That's what makes our community rich. All right. Yes, strengths, we're full of them. Programming, learning, partnerships, engagement. I think we can keep moving on, Mike. Yeah, and a lot of people are talking about their biggest challenges. So a thing that I'd like to ask us, if we want to do a little bit of breakout rooms, I kind of like peppered you with more than a 3-minute spiel about who we are, but hopefully you got a good understanding of just the possibilities. So I'm going to ask you, and I'll put this in the chat, two big questions. One is, if you're out in your breakout rooms, get to chat with people, what's keeping you up at night? So either out of anxiety or excitement about the space that we're in of global learning and engagement. And then my second question is, all right, bye, Noel. Have a good one. Good to see you for the time you could make it. How do you see this community of practice meeting the needs of your organization or your initiative? You know, you do have a rich community around you. How might you tap into it? And it might be the first time that you're even thinking about this. So, you know, just talking out loud would be great. So, Mike, would you like to give us some breakout rooms? And I will fix my spelling error and put the prompt in. I always spell.
It's like, okay, it's high and all have
Right. Excellent. Oh, I don't know about you, but I could have talked for another 15, 20 minutes.
Yes,
So,
I know. We didn't have a lot.
It went fast.
it went really fast. Yeah. Yeah. And Francine, love meeting new people. This is such a great space to do that. And like-minded folks who may have a different way of getting there, but that mission again is aligning us. So do I have like a handful of folks, maybe 3 or 4 people who'd like to share out something you took away from your conversation? I'd love to hear it.
I can go, Sarah.
Okay.
All right. Erin the nanny. Sounds good.
I would just say agreed. We could have spent a lot more time talking. But I just felt like there are in my group of 4, many of us are in the same boat right now. And so it was we were kind of just commiserating in solidarity about some of the changes at our institution and feeling like this is the right place to be in order to kind of think through some of those challenges and work together. So it was good.
Absolutely. Right. The commiseration also usually has a positive spin. So we get a little bit of processing and catharsis, but there's usually something we take away that's like, okay, we're going to make it okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Annie, you had something as well.
Oh, yeah. One of the people who was in both my groups, Ben from University of San Diego, said, oh, these are my people, after he heard about each of us. So I feel like that's what was really, projected in each of our conversations, where we all recognize that we're all on the same path and we have the same mission, and it's growing and it's going to expand. So yes, thank you.
This is how momentum is made. Anybody else want to share?
I think maybe a pertinent question would be, how are you sleeping at night and overcoming all the threats that are presented? Picking one is kind of a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. We just had to move an entire cohort of students out of China because of the 1286 list. And it's, somebody had mentioned in our group about mobility. What keeps us up at night is the fact that these opportunities are shrinking to connect and to be together and to work across borders. And how do you maintain that when there are so many forces that are working against you? So yeah, which of the things is a good question, Ben, and how? All right. And I'm seeing some great comments in the chat as well. Institutional limitations, right? How does your own institution maybe hinder or help working through this difficult geopolitical time? We had some great resources shared. The Renovator that Joanna is working on as a local, not a local, but a newsletter resource that I believe the next issue is out on Monday. So that link is in the chat. I'm seeing the AAC&U just recently published about Community Engaged Toolkit. Anything else before we move on to like what's next for the year? All right. I'll underscore Scott's point too. A lot of like-mindedness, and you don't have to like explain where you're coming from, or you're not arguing that like should it be or the ethics or the terminology, but rather thinking of that next step of how. So I very much appreciate that being in a community and my people. So I think it's this point I send it back over to Carolina.
Thanks, Sarah, and thank you all for participation. Really feel it makes me feel energized just hearing people articulate the value of being here and just sharing the space together. And I get to have the really fun part of a few minutes just highlighting some of the things that are coming up next. So we can go to the next slide, because the first thing that we want to mention is that there's several members that are going to be in the International Association for Research on Service Learning and Community Engagement conference. So we have in the next slide the QR code for the pre-conference information, where Matt Gentle and Amanda Whitman is going to be moderating a space. So if you're in the area in New Orleans, and if you're planning to go, and thank you, Chris, for adding there the link in the chat, I appreciate it. Please feel free to reach out. And if you do not know the names that I just mentioned, let us know and we'll connect you. We can make all those connections in advance so you make the most of the time during the conference. There's also a lot of things happening in that same conference, several presentations of collaborative members. So when you see the program, if you want to look out for those sessions, right? I know Robin Sapin, Mike, Sarah, Hiba, Mac Benavides, Denise, there's many, many, many more. So again, if you're planning to go to the conference, reach out
I'm still there.
to Mike, and he can share a little bit more information about that. Dennis and Mac are also going to be doing podcast on site. So really recommend connecting with them in advance. And very excited to report that one of the newest members of the collaborative is receiving an award, the Community Outcomes and Impact Award, the Fundación Pachaizana. So congrats, and again, so much to celebrate of members and in that space. And there's already a collaborative meetup, a conversation happening on Monday night at the posters session. So again, anybody joining this conference, feel free to reach out. Then we also are in the process of finalizing and discussing some of the region and convening spaces. So we can go to the next slide, Mike. But just we are in the process, well, in the conversation or having a reunion in the Northeast part of the US. And another, we're working on an event in South America, specifically in Chile. Still talking about topics, still defining the last details, but there is conversation about having this in-person spaces, convening spaces that people can join. So more to come. And also this is an invitation. If you feel like in your area, your institution, your organization wants to host one of the spaces for that collaborative, please feel free to reach out. And it's not a lot, let's say, that we need in terms of support. It's more like the venue and just kick off the conversation. And in that slide also, there's a few of the things that are the pillars of the work of the collaborative that we could anchor some of those gatherings around. So just to give some ideas about that. Then the last thing I would like to mention is that we have new community of practice spaces, one about community impact working group, and another one around student learning, assessing student learning outcomes that Mike has put there in the slide. Meeting in September, October, November, and December. So if you're interested in joining, there's the QR code. And also if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. Again, trying to find as many spaces as we can to share those concerns that were put in the chat and share in the breakout room, but also some of the solutions that some people are bringing to the table. So just open invitation to those spaces. And then the last time that we have to talk a little bit about future, we wanted to do something that unfortunately we don't do enough as grown-ups, I feel. And sometimes people do it in the space of business and things, but just imagining like future where resources are not a barrier. So that, and when I say resources, I mean human resources, money, tools, whatever you need. You don't need to convince anybody in your institution of anything. Resources are not a barrier. What do you want? What do you see the future collaborative we could do together? So I'll put that question in the chat. If you have any ideas, any goals, and how will we measure that success? Again, no need to get stuck in, oh, that seems too tough. I don't think we can do it. Let's just be very open, creative, think about what we could do if resources were not a barrier in this space. So Mike is going to open up again the breakout rooms. Thank you, Mike, for joining. And we'll come back and share back with everybody. Hi, welcome back. Welcome back. I know time goes by like in a different dimension when you're in breakout rooms. But does any of the groups wants to share back some of the creative ideas, no resource barriers that came up in your discussions?
I can share quickly. I mean, one of the things that we were talking about, if resources were no obstacle, right? Like having the opportunity to gather in person more frequently would be wonderful. And knowing that our institutions face a lot of constraints right now around sending people places and that sort of thing, if we were going to dream big, one of those. And then I think, we were singing Mike's organizational praises in our breakout room. But, more mics, right? So that the ideas that come out of those spaces together, right, can be like kind of project managed through fruition and there's like support for that. And so I guess we would clone Mike if we had no barrier to resources and we would get together in person more frequently.
Love that. More mics. Sounds good. Anybody else wants to share back?
I'll double down on that. We talked about more in-person gatherings, but building on like the success of the Asia Pacific Hub, more regional gatherings, maybe in Guatemala or in other places around the world, and sort of shifting the expectation that people travel to the global north in the other direction, to the global south, especially. With people maybe boycotting entry to the US right now or having difficulty getting visas and lots of different reasons. So if we had no restrictions on resources, we would love to see more of that happen.
Thank you, Patrick. Agree. Anybody else? A lot of community, a lot of reunion coming up from this conversation as priorities. In the group that I was part of, we also talk about having grant money for research and project implementation for collaborative members. We talk about best practice incentives. We talked about having just more time to balance it all, everything that needs to happen between student assessment, community partners assessment, coordinate more with similar groups that are mission aligned in different ways. We didn't talk specifically about the how, but more the what. And also Kevin raised the question that we're taught always to live through a scarcity mindset. And if we think about planet resources, we can also flip that question sometime. So I think that was a great way to wrap up like our own breakout room and thinking about how we can flip the conversation, flip around like what resources we actually have, at the same time that we let ourselves think about beyond what we currently have very close by. Any final ideas before I hand it over to Mike? All right. Thanks for engaging. I know it's hard to think about a world with unlimited resources, so I appreciate all the feedback and the conversation and love the themes that come up. And I think some of those requires resources, but some of those, the resources are already here in the room. So just naming that. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Carolina, and thanks everyone. Becca, I was looking for the heart response and I couldn't find it, but I appreciate the shout out and the breakouts, the conversations. This is what the collaborative is about, as we've been alluding to, these relationships, building trust. And recently, I've been fortunate to speak with some of the folks who've been with the collaborative since the beginning. And you can read that on the blog, this Revealing Our Roots series we're doing. And the fact that when we meet someone in the collaborative, we know that there's this alignment with our ethical approach to partnerships and working together across this campus community divide. And so if you haven't yet, or even if you have, please consider one simple step you can take immediately is signing this pledge, this collaborative commitment to practice these principles. We're all practicing, we're all trying to make our way as best we can toward true reciprocity. And so this ethos is really one of the principles that binds us together as a network, as a collaborative. It creates trust between us. So I encourage you to do that and share this with your students, with your faculty in your departments, with others in your organization. We haven't been dropping a lot of links into the chat, but you will receive this slide deck with all these links in the next day or two. Other simple steps you can take, especially if you're new to the collaborative, and the 35 of you still hanging out on this call, thank you. So if you're not on our newsletter, if you're not following us on social media, make sure you're doing that. We're posting frequently to those channels. We only send out one newsletter a month, and we put out a call to all of our action team members, and supporters to crowdsource that newsletter. So if you ever have anything for that, if there's ever anything you'd like to post on LinkedIn and Facebook, and yes, now we've entered the 21st century, we're on Instagram. So please take a look at that and join us. We have drop-ins on the third Thursday, and we'll be announcing that drop-in in our newsletter next Friday. However, never hesitate to schedule a time to meet with me one-to-one. Again, I get that privilege of speaking with so many of you and then creating those connections. So those are some simple things right away. Like everyone hopefully is on the newsletter, on those social media lists. Two things happening tomorrow, right? So on the one hand, we have our first Collaborative 101 of the season. We do these 30-minute quick bites almost every month. It's a way to get a little deeper into our four main activities. So it's not too late to register for that tomorrow. It's also not too late to register for our next Fair Trade Learning Community of Practice. That registration closes tomorrow for the first meeting on Monday. And so please take a look at that. Alejandra from ICDS Costa Rica did a fantastic job of facilitating that the last term. And so now the pressure's on me to facilitate that. But it will be a great learning space, a great way to talk more about some of the conversations that have come up today. So those are two things tomorrow. And then also looking ahead, we have these Connect with the Collaboratives, as I mentioned, on the third Thursday. Anything that I've talked about, feel free to get on a reminder list, right? Remind me when the next Connect with the Collaborative is. Remind me when you open up for action team nominations, which we've referenced. We'll be opening those up in November. So this reminder form allows you to choose several things to receive reminders for. Not the same as registering, but it's a great way to let us know if you're interested, for example, in receiving when the next webinar is launched or when the next podcast is launched. So the one webinar we currently have scheduled right now, we'll be announcing more in the future, is between two of our newest members, Redis and Earthrights Institute. We're very excited about Dr. Usman Pame presenting his model as professor in Africa and the work he's doing across the Sahel in partnership with Earthrights Institute. Very inspirational and very hope-giving. So that's one of the things I'm hearing is, where are we finding hope? Yes, we find it together, and we find it in these fantastic models that are modeling our fair trade learning ethical principles So that's in a couple of weeks. Please sign up for that. It is sure to be a very vibrant conversation. And then finally, blogging and podcasts. So both Mac and Dennis did have to depart early. However, they've been leading our podcast. We have 5 episodes currently on our YouTube channel. That's also one of our 4th social media channels. It's often camouflaged. All these are on our website, by the way. If you look up in the upper right corner of our website, you can find all these links. This recording will be on our YouTube channel. So if you missed part of it, you'll be able to go back to it. But we're always looking for folks who might want to come onto the podcast. So there's a nomination form. And then Maureen Vandermoss Peeler and I, member of our advocacy council, long time supporter, we are reinvigorating the blog. So if you have ideas for the blog, again, there's a way to nominate yourself, nominate other scholars in the field, including others in the collaborative, but others outside the collaborative, because we're always looking to expand that circle. And with that, I'm going to throw it back to Sam.
All right, so we have a few more minutes. If anybody has any questions or suggestions or thoughts to share, you can unmute, you can throw things in the chat. We definitely appreciate so much that so many of you joined us today. It was fun to see old and new faces in the collaborative. We are excited for the momentum you are all bringing with you, and I will be quiet now since I actually asked for questions and suggestions. Annie.
I have a question. I'm just thinking because I've connected with so many student groups, and I know that they, change their leaderships. But how do you work with them? Like if there is a student group that is, the actual university doesn't become a member or partnership, but they would like to connect, is it the same as the sort of cost of membership, or how can we encourage and bring in these incredible student-run groups that exist?
That's such a wonderful question, and I don't think, Sarah, I'm looking at you and others on steering committee. I don't think we've had student organizations join us, but I think it's a wonderful thing for us to think about what that would look like. And a pathway to that. I know that we've had students at different institutes and events that we've done sharing the work that they've done with faculty and centers and things across our organizations and institutions, but would be happy to keep thinking about that with you, Annie.
Yeah, I'd be happy to work with that.
Thank you.
I got a question. Is there a particular more participatory action research network hole somewhere in the collaborative where folks are talking and sharing and engaging?
Yeah, I would think that, for a number of ways, but I think the knowledge mobilization team is the one that probably is the locus of what you're looking for. So Ben, come along, and because we're talking about relational engagement, we're talking about the ethics of methods, we're talking about roles. So that might be where you might want to enter in. Does that sound right?
Can you repeat that once again?
Sure. The knowledge mobilization action team we meet once a month. That's where we've had everything from conversations about scholarship mobilization, methodology, podcasting, blogging, both the scholarship of and the action of doing the research. So I think that's a good one.
Good thing my note takers.
Exactly.
That was a mouthful. All right, I think we have time for one more final question or thought. I know people are popping off to next things. It's a busy start for lots of people. If not, thank you all for joining. Good to see you all, and we look forward to connecting throughout the year.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
all.
Bye.
Good to see you. Bye, friends.